G'day punters, welcome to Victims of the Punt. We have Group 1 racing from Randwick and it's been wet, but we'll get to that just in a second. Mark Shean, Mark Rhoden here to help me preview the card. We'll be looking at races 3 through 8, so all the group races. Mark Shean, how much rain have you had over the week?
Yeah, torrential Tuesday. Wednesday wasn't much better. There was a burst there about 4 or 5 o'clock. We just hammered down. So, some very interesting track readings of an 8 after 135 mil of rain. Wonder what it would have been if they'd been going over it race-wise. Look, I can't see it being much better than a 10 myself. I don't live far from Randwick and it's still a little bit of drizzle this morning, so no drying weather, so genuine heavy track.
Okay, we're expecting racing to go ahead though on Saturday. It's not going to be postponed or anything like that from what you can tell.
Well, unless we get another massive downpour, I suppose. It doesn't look that way at the moment though.
Okay, Mark Rhoden, with that in mind, rail true, what are you thinking?
There's been a couple of true rails on affected ground where the inside's held up okay early and gone by, say, the last 3 races or so. Like Everest Day was one example. There was another meeting in December where that similar sort of pattern unfolded. This is going to be a lot wetter than that, though. This will be the wettest track we've seen since last winter. There were 2 very, very wet tracks last July, but they were on 6 and 9 metre rails, so not a great guide. Look, I wouldn't be at all surprised if the inside was gone pretty early in the card.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, let's have a look at the first of the black type races. It's Group 2 racing for the 2-year-old fillies, the Sweet Embrace, which is race 3. The market has Lady Laguna favourite at $2.60 from Extravagant Star at $3.50. You've got Fireburn $5.50, Miss Faberge at $9.50. Everything else is over 20 to 1. Mark Shean, any thoughts here with the fillies?
Yeah, look, I was actually going to have something on Lady Laguna, even with Coolangatta in the race. I don't know if I was dreaming or not, but look, she has won on a wet track. They gave it a heavy 10. It wasn't a 10. It was about a 6 or a 7 at the very worst. And she'd had her first use of the track and led on the rail, which was an advantage. But by the same token, she won by 4 lengths. She was track wide first up going to that race, I think, without a trial from memory. But she's had a trial since, at least, with the winkers on. And I think she'll lap up 1,200 metres. So the fact that she's won in some sort of affected going, certainly in her favour. Extravagant Star certainly looks the one to beat. Miss Faberge didn't have much luck the other day, but didn't really grab me in the yard, to tell you the truth. And didn't have a great deal of luck, but I'm with Lady Laguna.
Okay, Mark Rhoden, any interest here for yourself?
I don't know. Probably not at 260 Lady Laguna, but I think she has to be on top. It was a very tough effort the other day. I was half against her first up because I thought that she had been flattered when she went at Rose Hill on the so-called heavy 10, which wasn't. But she had the pattern to suit that day, and I thought she was flattered. But she might be better than I thought because that was a very tough effort in defeat first up, and I think she is clearly the one to beat here. Extravagant Star hasn't done anything wrong. Nice win in the Inglis race last time. Maybe the end of 1,200 and a real slog could be a bit of an issue for her. I think Fireburn will be strong. And I think this could be a complete dream, but I thought number 10, She's Extreme, if they're just, already by race 3, hammering down the middle to the outside. I thought she closed off well in a race where they ran pretty good time on the Kenzo last start, so I thought she wasn't hopeless at around $31. But look, Lady Laguna, the one to beat, but probably a stay-out race for me.
Okay, well, race 4 is for the Colts and Geldings, the Skyline over the same distance, 1,200 metres, and it's a pretty open market at the moment. Rise of the Masses is favourite just slightly at $6.50 from El Padrino at $7. You've got Gemeldi at $8.50, so is Custodian. Sandpaper's $9, Man in the Mirror is $10. It just gradually drifts out from there. Mark Shean, any help here for the 2-year-olds for the Colts and Geldings?
Well, the 2 favourites are the 2 horses that do have heavy track form. El Padrino second at Cranbourne on debut, and Rise of the Masses winning on a heavy track at Kembla Grange. But I've got to say, I think he's very one-paced and not much chop. But this is a very open race, as the betting would suggest. Look, I think El Padrino probably the hardest to beat, but I think Fire and Ice has a chance in the race as well, and looks overs to me at $31. Didn't think it had great deal of luck at both its runs, and Peace Officer was pretty stiff first up as well, had a checkered passage most of the way up the straight. And Sandpaper was, I think, disadvantaged coming back in distance from Canterbury to 1100 at Randwick last time out. So they're the main plays for me. Don't like Rise of the Masses. So I'm going to back El Padrino and Sandpaper and maybe spec the others at longer odds. But, yeah, very tricky race. I've got a first starter here too, Custodian's hard in the market, but it's going to be a big ask for him to win on this sort of ground at his first start.
Yeah, definitely. Mark Rhoden?
No idea, frankly. I just can't help you here. I don't think, as a group, they're much good. This Custodian is a half to Profondo, I think, which is interesting.
Yeah, 1.1. They both.
1.1, is that all? Good. By Shalar, not a noted wet breed and what we've seen of his offspring so far. So just no idea on what's likely to be a heavy 10. I mean, Anthony Friedman's got James McDonald to ride it. He obviously thinks it can gallop a bit, but who knows? Thought Man in the Mirror. I mean, it ran really slow time at Warwick Farm, beat Paris Dior that day. Looks to have tried well in decent time since. It could improve. So I had Sandpaper. I thought, I know Rob's a bit of a fan of Peace Officer. I thought it was a size champagne type. So maybe if this turns into a, trench warfare, it might be last standing. Then I was at El Padrino. Yeah, I see Mark's point about Fire and Ice. It'd be a big day for Mark Minivini if he could win a race like this, but it did. It ran terrific late sectionals from an impossible spot last start. And probably can't win, but number 10, Promido, it's 900 metre form, which you really don't want anything to do with in a race like this, but I thought it was powerful in its last 100 up at Newcastle and some chance at big odds, but I could say that about most of the field. So to cut a long story short, I don't think I'll be betting.
Fair enough as well. Race 5 is the Liverpool Cup, Group 3 over 1,300. Quantico's favourite at $4.40. You can get actually the same price around Ellsberg as well, $4.40. A Tissue's $7.50 with Alligator Blood $8.50. And then Superium's $12, Riodini $14. Mark, Shean, your thoughts here?
Don't like Quantico at all. I'm going to lay it. Just doesn't look a wet tracker to me. He mightn't even run. I thought a Tissue would run well here. 2 soft trials, good first up last time in, wet form in New Zealand. Good run on a wet track at Randwick one day when I think we were all on it. And I thought Poetic Charmer wasn't hopeless at the bottom here at longer odds. I know he's a bit of a non-winner, but he is a good wet tracker and he's got a bit of a fitness edge on a lot of these horses who were first up. So I thought he was a bit of value around the $20 mark. Look, Ellsberg's got a chance, but looking at him, he doesn't look a wet tracker, but he's run okay in the wet. I think that day that Lady Laguna won, that they rated the track heavy, was the day he won as well. So it wasn't a genuine heavy, it was only slow. But he's been placed at his second start on a heavy track at Rose Hill as well. So he probably should get through it. He's a bit of a plodder in the trials. He doesn't really trial brilliantly, and that's the way he trialled the other day without the blinkers. So, he could show up and bolt in, but probably short enough for me. I thought a Tissue was a little bit better value.
Okay. Mark Rhoden?
Yeah, I'm a bit lost with this race too. I mean, I assume they'll scratch Alligator Blood, won't they, as well?
I hope it runs.
Sorry?
I hope it runs.
And Quantico might come out as well. Quantico would be a good thing in this close to a good thing in this on a dryish, even a 6 or something like that. But yeah, it's hard to back him on it's going to be a 10. Ellsberg should handle it. A Tissue should handle it. I wanted to give Arameo a chance because he was very good first up last time behind Zaki, and arguably could be strong late at the end of 1,300 first up. But look, I think he ran second in the Spring Champion or something as a 3-year-old on wet ground, but hasn't really fired on it since. So it's a bit hard to come into him. As you can probably tell by the tone of my voice, I'm struggling with the race. A couple of double figures I thought were not hopeless on real heavy were Brutality and maybe even Superium, although it's drawn 1, so they're probably not going to be any good by race 5. I'll just see how this shakes out after scratchings and what the map looks like and what's actually left in the race, but I couldn't really push you into anything at the moment.
And that's fair enough as well. Race 6 is the Guy Walter Group 2 for the mares over 1,400, and Ice Bath is $2.30 from Forbidden Love at $6, Promise of Success is 7, 9.50 for Vangelic, and Kiku's 10, upwards from there. Mark Shean, you've been with Ice Bath a few times in the past, but are you finding anything to beat it here?
Look, she just looks thrown in here at the weight. She's been placed in a couple of Group 1s, a Doncaster and the Cantala. She won the $2 million invitation at Weight for Age against the mares there through the carnival, and here she is on the limit. So if it was a handicap, she'd have a lot more weight than this. Look, if they can make ground from the back, she looks the winner to me. Forbidden Love's racing well. I think that Jerry, they just got to freshen her up for a second up form's not normally much chop, but they've given her a month off and a trial in between. She's trialled quite well. Got to concede a lot of weight to Ice Bath, though, 4 kilos. Yeah, I'm scratching my head to look elsewhere. Kiko's probably got some sort of chance, but she'll be back with Ice Bath, and I don't think she's got as good a sprint, so she's probably some hope. Ice Bath looks to win it to me if she can make ground.
Mark Rhoden, how are you looking at this?
I thought there were 2 good wet trackers in the race, and they were Ice Bath and Kiku, and just with the price differential, I'm going to have something on Kiku. I've got an Ice Bath on top, obviously. I think everyone does, but just thought the gap in the market was too great. Yeah, all her best form's been on wet ground. She's just been waiting for it. I thought from 7 and Ice Bath in 12, Ice Bath might actually be last or very close to it, and Kiku could be a pair or 2 in front of her. Look, if she hits the front and Ice Bath's breathing down her neck, I suppose Ice Bath will get past her, but I've got to have something on at $10, I think. And I've got them miles clear of the rest, to be honest. I think on wet ground, one of the 2 will win. More likely to be Ice Bath, but Kiku the value.
That brings us to the Chipping Norton, the Group 1 over the mile, and Very Elegant is favourite at $2.90. Colette is $3.80. You've got Think It Over at $4.50. Top ranked at $10, and then everything else is $26 or more in the market. Mark Shean, which of the shorties are you siding with?
Look, I'm with Colette here. There looks to be no pace in this race at all. Think It Over will probably roll forward. Maybe Angel of Truth, if it jumps out of the gates, they might be aggressive on it, but I think it'll be a muddling run race. I think Colette just lands in the perfect spot here, just behind them on the rail. She was left to do a little bit of chasing, facing the breeze in the solidly run race the other day. Picked up nicely late. I think she'll be better at a mile and be much better on this heavier surface. So I just think she gets a nice run. Look, Very Elegant's got a win over her at this track and distance last time in, but there was not much between them on that occasion. And I think Colette sets up to get a better run here. Look, Very Elegant, look, just jumped out the back and was in the worst ground the other day, but look, she worked home okay, but seems a bit skinny to me at $2.90. Think It Over, massive query in this sort of ground. If it is a heavy 9, most of his worst runs are on heavy tracks. So I think Colette gets a good run here and it's hard to beat.
Okay, Mark Rhoden?
Yeah, don't know if I can find a bet here either. Not being much help today. Shade Dryer, I'd just go with Think It Over again. He's the one that's in form. Came back in great style, winning your pie first up. Like the one who obviously wants the wet track. Very elegant. I've just got to have the jury out on her. I couldn't take around $3 even. But on her day, she'd kill him. So I just found it very hard to price, and I couldn't really see anything away from those 3 being having much chance. Top ranked is probably mine next, and it's first up on heavy ground, which is not ideal. 1600, I wouldn't have thought.
He's an interesting horse, though, isn't he? Top ranked. He did gallop with Zaki between races at Warwick Farm the other day, and I thought he had much the better of Zaki, to tell you the truth. But he did sweat up and was a bit above himself, so the yard will be important with him, I think. And
he was very well backed against Lost and Running at Newcastle, wasn't he? I think, yeah, and ran very well. I think he's got something. I just don't know whether 1600 first up on heavy is it, but we'll see. Look, it could be Colette by a process of elimination if it's too wet to Think It Over and Very Elegant's not at her top. I mean, she'd then just stand out. If those 2 aren't at the top of their game, she'll be the one left to win it, I think. But I just found it a bit hard to price, and I don't think, again, it's a betting race for me.
All right. Well, the last race we will preview is the Surround, the other Group 1 for the 3-year-old fillies over 1400, and Espiona's favourite at $2.15. Fangirl is $4.20, and then Jamea is $12. Everything else is $20 or more. Mark Shean, any thoughts?
Yeah, we've got the rematch here. 215 Espiona and 420 Fangirl. It's just interesting, isn't it, to think the horse that ran Espiona down is a much longer price. Look, I don't know which way to go here. I think I'll be swayed by the way the track's playing. If they can't come from so far back, Fangirl will probably be a lot further back in the field. Maybe Espiona just got there a little bit too early the other day at the top of the straight, had to fight off Jamea and was holding it, and then Fangirl just sort of sucked up behind them and had the last shot. Maybe that just helped her win on the day. Probably at this stage, I'll be on Fangirl at the price because I can't work out the differential. That's the only thing. Espiona might be the best horse, but the differential's got me scratching my head, I've got to say.
Okay.
What do you think, mate?
I agree that I think they're too far apart. As to why, I think in these days of, bulk early markets going up, I think the prices framers use SP profile as a guide to help them, and Espiona was obviously a lot shorter than Fangirl last time, and I think that's just fed into the early market here. I think I'll back Fangirl. I think she actually defied the pattern a little bit to win first up. She wasn't suited from back where she was and was able to run all of them, including Espiona, down. As to Espiona getting there too quick, maybe, but I think when he went for her, she lay in, as I mentioned in the review show, and that's not a great sign. Look, with them being so far apart in the market, and I don't have a firm opinion on who's the better horse as yet after the other day, I think I have to back Fangirl. But you really think at set weights one of the two would win. But yeah, I think 420 is a nice price, about a very good filly.
All right, well, that brings us to the end. It looks a tricky card to be playing into, especially early, but I will ask if you've got any best players on the card. Mark, Shean, I'll start with yourself.
Yeah, well, I suppose we're scratching our heads a little bit again with how the track's going to play, but I thought race 2, Mayrose, was very good first up winning. I know she is back in distance, but I just thought she'd settled a much better in the run than she had last preparation where she was pulling her head off. She looked a totally different filly at Canterbury. And I thought she'd be hard to beat. I think Ice Bath, if you can make ground, looks the winner. And I think Quantico, if it does run, is my lay of the day. Okay,
very good. Mayrose race 2 getting $4.60 at the moment. Mark, Rhoden.
Okay, so not with any mammoth confidence. Wouldn't be having my last or anything tomorrow, but I think Fangirl's a good bet. And I think Kiku, even though it's racing Ice Bath, is value at $10. But perhaps even back at each way, because I do think one of the two should win that race.
All right, beautiful. We'll be back on Monday to review this meeting, however wet it may get. But until then, guys, go well.
Thanks, Peter, mate.
Thanks, Pete.